What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you the highlights from Steam's Summer Sale 2026, which kicked off just yesterday from the time of this video, that is to say June 25th, and it will be running for 2 weeks ending on July 9th. And as with basically every year, this sale, along with the winter sale, tend to be some of the best deals you're going to get. And so, as somebody who reviews games, often talking about the price and whether or not you should buy something on sale, etc., it makes sense for me, at least, to cover these things, which is what we're doing here. But like I like to mention at the start of every one of these videos, I am mainly focused on games that have released and are going on sale for the first time that I've reviewed, as well as games that are relevant to upcoming releases, and some of course, the bigger deals overall. But that is realistically only a tiny fraction of the thousands of games that ultimately wind up participating in these sales, and so if there's a good deal you want to mention down in the comments, certainly feel free to do so hopefully people can take advantage of it and play a cool game for cheap. And last but not least, I am based in the US, so I am pretty much just talking US dollars here, not exactly sure what that translates to every individual title for all the regions of people who might actually be watching this video. But otherwise, let's go ahead and dive into it. So, with Control Resonant upcoming later in September, I've been very interested in playing through Alan Wake 1 and 2, which I've already finished with 1, and in fact, you can pick up Alan Wake 1 and its standalone game, American Nightmare, together in a little bundle for 85% off, bringing that down to $3.75. That said, if you want to play Alan Wake 2 specifically, that is an Epic Store exclusive still, and that does not appear to be on sale at the moment, so keep that in mind. However, you can also get Control, which is also part of that universe, for 85% off as well, which is $6 and includes the DLC. All of those games were a lot of fun to play through. I played through Control first personally, really enjoyed that game. Alan Wake 1 I had a blast with just earlier this year, and I plan on reviewing Alan Wake 2 very soon, so figured I would shout those out. Next up, I want to talk about a smaller title that I really enjoyed from earlier this year, and that is Banquet For Fools. This game is at 22% off, bringing it down to $15.50 roughly, and it is a wonderfully unique CRPG that I think is doing a lot of really cool and interesting things. But if you want more information, you'll probably want to watch the review on that one. But in addition to being discounted, it also just very recently got its 1.1 update, which brought some new Game Plus game modes, alongside some other interesting changes, which is very cool overall. The third title I want to talk about is Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, a remake of Dragon Quest VII, which is, despite the series entry, a relatively standalone title. You can jump into it on its own just fine, and it is 25% off, bringing it down to $45 US. If you like JRPGs, I had a lot of fun with that one earlier this year. And in fact, with the relatively recent announcement that they're working on Dragon Quest XII, Dragon Quest XI is actually a game I will be picking up during this sale, which is itself half off, bringing the definitive edition down to like $20. I won't be reviewing that soon, but I'll get around to it eventually. Next up, another one of my favorite games so far this year, we've got Esoteric Ebb. This is a narrative CRPG kind of in the vein of something like Disco Elysium, just so you're aware, but it is 20% off, bringing it down to $20 US. And while it was never a terribly expensive game, Esoteric Ebb is a really great game if you are into D&D and of course narrative type games. That one will probably wind up ranking pretty high on my end of the year rankings, as it were. Now, this next title I gave a buy on sale when I reviewed it because it ran pretty poorly, and that is High on Life 2. Well, since this game's initial release, which was a few months back, they have dropped several patches focused on fixing some of those technical problems, and you can find it now for 33% off, bringing it down to $40 US, and if you like a certain type of crass humor that those particular games happen to have, which I personally find pretty funny, then High on Life 2 is potentially a pretty good time. And it looks like it's running better these days overall, and I figured I would point it out just for that. However, if you wanted to wait a little longer on that one, I don't think anybody would blame you. Another one of my favorite titles from this year being a boomer shooter, and this one is Mouse PI for Hire, which is 20% off, bringing it down to $24 US, and this was a delightful experience. I like to play these games to relax between all the RPGs that I check out, And Mouse PI for Hire was a genuinely delightful surprise. I think for what it is and what it's trying to be, it is really high quality and well done. I love all the handmade art, the rubber hose animation, all that stuff. It's a great time if you're into it. Now I want to talk about another JRPG, which is Trails in the Sky First Chapter, a remake to the original Trails in the Sky. However, at 50% off, bringing it down to $30 US, you've got a pretty good entry point into the series before Trails in the Sky Second Chapter's remake drops in September. That is one of the games I'm looking forward to covering that month, though it's going to be a busy one. But seeing how I enjoyed the first one enough to look forward to the second one, I figured some people might appreciate the heads up on that one. Then we've got another boomer shooter on sale with Boltgun 1 being 67% off, bringing it down to $7 US, and you can, if you like, check that out before Boltgun 2 is set to drop later this year, bringing with it some changes and mix-ups to the formula, some added content via an extra character to play, that kind of thing. So if you want to see where that started with the original, it's a pretty good time to jump into it before the second one drops, if you happen to be in the mood to purge some heresy, of course. Now this next title is an interesting one because I haven't talked about it in quite some time, and it is none other than Expeditions Rome, which is 80% off, bringing it down to $9 US, including the DLC, I believe. And while I haven't talked about this game for some time, it was actually my game of the year for 2022 because I enjoyed it so much. It is a CRPG, though more on the tactics side of things, that sees you being a stand-in for Julius Caesar, kind of running through a lot of what that looked like historically, but getting to make some of your own choices and participate in those campaigns, that kind of thing. And it is shockingly well done. Very, very surprising game. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is not only the sale, but because they announced a series continuation via Expeditions Samurai very recently, the past couple of weeks, at all the industry shows earlier this month, which is noteworthy because that follows a bunch of drama with the creators of the Expedition series and that studio and everything that happened there that I don't want to get into here. But I will say Expeditions Samurai on the art department does not look great to me, but it did give me an opportunity to shout out Expeditions Rome, so figured I would do it. Next up, we've got The Witcher 3 coming in at 80% off, bringing it down to $10, which includes the DLC if you have not, in fact, for some reason already bought The Witcher 3. But now is a shockingly good time to, if you haven't already, and that is, of course, because the announcement of an upcoming expansion for that game many years after its release, as they, of course, work on The Witcher 4. I won't bore you with the description. The Witcher 3 is great, but if you want to take it one step farther, you can even pick up The Witcher 2 for $3 US and the original enhanced edition for $1.50. Only a couple more left to go. We then have Doom the Dark Ages, which is 67% off, bringing it down to $23 US, and this is of note because not only is it a fantastic game on its own, it has a DLC coming out relatively soon known as Revelations, which is going to bring some new content and everything. So if you want to not only get the game for cheaper than it would be, but you can also, of course, pick up that DLC if you like, though that obviously won't be on sale yet. Speaking of DLC, I also wanted to talk a little bit about The Altars, which is a very bizarre survival game that's hard to describe necessarily, but you basically make clones of yourself known as altars in order to escape a hostile planet. It is a very, very interesting and unique game, and it can be yours for 50% off at $17 US. But another reason I wanted to bring this up is because it is also getting a big DLC here in just a couple of weeks, which I plan on jumping into and reviewing, as I enjoyed that game a lot, and hopefully other people will as well. And then to start closing this out with a couple games I always like to mention, I've been covering Rogue Trader. Its final DLC is upcoming in a few months. However, if I'm being real honest, if you haven't bought that game already, I would probably continue to hold off, and the reason for that is that Season Pass 2 is not on sale. So in order to get all the content, you would have to buy the base game, Season Pass 1, and Season Pass 2, which is honestly a good chunk of money for a sale. And you still wouldn't have the DLC that we are still waiting on. So for that one specifically, if you haven't bought it at this point and you want to get it on a discount, I would probably just hold out until winter sale personally, but I figured somebody would ask, so there you go. And then, of course, I can't talk about Owlcat without talking about one of my favorite games of all time, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. You can get the Game of the Year edition, which includes the base game and all of its DLC for the low price of $12 US, and considering I have played that game for I think it's like 800 something hours, doing some quick math in my head, including the time I spent with the closed beta, I think it is around a little shy of 900. Like somewhere between 850 and 900, I think. So rest assured, that game is well worth the cash. But I do think that is pretty much going to do it for the games I wanted to highlight during this. But if you have anything you want to mention, as I mentioned at the top of the video, certainly leave it down in the comment section below. And with any luck, I may well just learn of some great deals to pick up things for future reviews on my own, outside of course, just helping any wayward commenters. But that, of course, means to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, but regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.